innocent interaction crosses the line quickly. Here to weigh in is marriage expert Janie Lacy. Good morning, Janie.
Good morning, Holly.
Okay, so when it comes to married individuals, there's no such thing as, a harmless flirtation, is there?
There is no such thing. You said it best. It usually starts out as innocent and it usually crosses the line very quickly.
Okay, and so for people that are kind of tempted to take maybe an interaction with a coworker or acquaintance to the next level, what do you tell them?
Well, if they want to be hurt, confused, and lonely, this is the quickest way to get there because it escalates very quickly. Those boundaries get crossed very quickly because once it starts, it gets very progressive. It hardly ever just stays at the flirtation level.
Sure. And you always hear people say when they get into these affairs, it's all a fantasy, which it really is. And so a lot of people get this idea, the person that isn't married and is hoping for the commitment from the married person, that this person's going to leave their spouse, their partner. But how often does that actually happen?
Holly, the statistics show that 3% of married men actually leave their wives for the affair partners, and another 3% of that actually survives and has a successful marriage.
Okay.
So the odds are definitely against the affair partner.
Sure. Well, let's talk about people that tend to find themselves involved with married individuals. Now, sometimes this happens randomly. There are some people that this is a pattern of behavior in their relationships. Why do some people target married individuals?
Well, sometimes it's not necessarily a target. It's the situation that sets them up to go down that road. And the workplace is the #1 place that men find their mistresses. So it usually starts out as a friendship, business acquaintances, and then it starts out as a flirtation, and then it quickly progresses.
Okay. And, one of the people that has been making headlines recently, Governor Sanford, and I believe that he met his mistress on a business trip. And just like you were saying, a lot of times where men meet these women or women meet men, because it goes both ways,
Absolutely.
is in the office or at a business function, someplace where they're interacting with members of the opposite or same sex.
Absolutely, and sometimes it is a mutual attraction. So sometimes when they get into these business meetings or even a social environment, one or both people get mutually attracted to each other and they hone in on those feelings as opposed to, hey, red flag, shouldn't go there.
Sure. Something I want to ask you is something that I heard probably years back. Someone said people that get involved with married individuals don't have a lot of self-esteem because if they did, they would choose to be with someone that was emotionally available, single, and wanted to give them all their time instead of sneaking around with them. Is there any truth to that?
Holly, there's a lot of truth to that. Most people, their deepest longing is to be connected with someone that's committed and where they can be themselves. And when they enter these relationships, it's just basically on fantasy. And it's usually rarely about the affair partner. It's usually about the circumstances that they create for the married individual.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time left. If someone's in an affair right now and they're thinking, this probably isn't the best situation for me to be into, what advice can you give them on ending things?
The best advice is to let someone know. Rarely people do it on their own. They have it in their intuition that I need to do this, but it's too addicting to some people. So whether it's a counselor or a friend, get someone that can be your support system that can help you end it, because it usually takes about 3 to 6 months to grieve that relationship, and you need support.
Great advice, and Janie, thank you so much. If you have a relationship question for Janie, she will be with us in about 15 minutes. Send your questions to dailybuzznow.com. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so you just started dating someone and things are going well, and then they do something that has you scratching your head and you're thinking, should I ignore this or is it something more serious? Here to weigh in is relationship expert Janie Lacy. Good morning, Janie.
Good morning, Holly.
Okay, so before we get into the warning signs of relationships, I want to quickly read to you an email I just got from a viewer. She's very honest, and I really appreciate this email, and I think it highlights something that we were talking about the last interview regarding why some men and women end up in relationships with married individuals. Now, this woman says, married men are just easier, no commitment or ties. When you're finished with them, you don't have to feel bad. The breakup is just, I'm done with you, go home with your wife. She says it is wrong, but she did it for several years in her 20s because she wasn't ready for a commitment. Now, I would assume you're going to say this is a dangerous mentality and it can be destructive later on in your life.
Absolutely. We actually see this a lot now, and it happens to be that most are in their early 20s or sometimes mid-20s, and what we call it is the hookup mentality. What the difficulty that we get with this is later on when they decide that they want to be in a committed relationship, I want to be married, I want to be settled down, they just don't know how because they've set a pattern up for themselves of just being one relationship to another and not having that emotional connection.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about a couple making news headlines. Jessica Simpson, Tony Romo we just read on one of those gossip blogs, it's kind of my guilty pleasure, that they actually just split up for probably second, third, fourth time, I don't know, in this past year. Can you kind of weigh in on, in relationships, if you're breaking up, getting back together, when do you just call it quits for good?
Well, exactly that. If there's already a pattern and you keep going in that pattern and you haven't intervened in that pattern and say, wait a second, we either need to do something different here or we just need to go our separate ways. Once those dysfunctional patterns are set, there's addictiveness to it as well. People like that. So I think at one point when you realize that we're going down the same path over and over and over again, we either need to do something different or we need to go our separate ways.
Okay, well, Janie, thank you so much. And for more information on Janie Lacy, head to our website, dailybuzznow.com. You have a question for her, go ahead and submit it. We'll be back in a moment.